stick it out till the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, know that we still.
Guys, welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be drafting this Grecian neckline blouse. I hope I got that right. So if you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. I already have my pattern paper on my work table and I'll go ahead and start taking my points. So the distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my waistline, which is going to be my top length, is 16 inches, but I'll be taking my side darts for this tutorial, so I'll be adding 1 inch to the 16 inches. I'll make it 17 inches for the front pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and rule straight lines across this point. So I have my bust line, which is 10 inches, and I have my waistline, which is the length of this pattern paper. So I'm going to label my bust line and my waistline. The next thing I'm going to do is to take half of my shoulder measurement. Half of my shoulder measurement is 8 inches. Since this is a sleeveless top, I'm going to reduce that measurement by 1 inch. Instead of placing 8 inches, I'll go ahead and place 7 inches as my shoulder measurement. I'll indicate the 7 inches with a point. I'll place my tape on that 7 inches point, and then I'll go down by my round armhole circumference divided by 2, which is 8 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and rule straight lines across the 8 inches mark. This line is going to serve as my chest line. Another way to get your chest line is to go up by 2 inches from your bust point. Is going to give you your chest line. I'll go ahead and label the line my chest line. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and place my tape on the shoulder line. What I have there is 7 inches. I'll place the same 7 inches on this chest line and I'll indicate it with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to go down on that shoulder measurement, the dot that I have on the shoulder measurement line. I'll go down by 1 inch on that dot and I'll indicate it with a point. After doing that, I'm going to place my ruler in a slanted form and I'll slant from that point into the neckline area. After doing that, guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect the dots on this shoulder slope to meet the dots on the chest line. I'll connect both dots into a straight line. The next thing I'll do is to take my neck measurement. So for the neck width, I'll be using 3.5 inches, and for the depth, I'm going to go down by 3 inches. So it depends on what you want. I'll go down by 3 inches and I'll use my ruler to connect both dots into a circle. So this is a circle neckline. After doing that, guys, next thing I'm going to do is to take my bust span measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches. I'm going to place the 4 inches on the waistline and I'll place the 4 inches on the bust line. After doing that, I'll connect the two dots, the dot on the bust line and the dot on the waistline. I'll connect both dots into a straight line. The next thing I'll do is to take in my dart. So I'm going to place my tape on the side front and I'm going to mark 0.75 inches. I'll place my tape on the other side. I'll mark 0.75 inches. On the bust line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to connect from the waistline. That's the two dots on the waistline. I'll connect to meet this 1 inch dot below the bust line. The next thing you're going to do is to determine how deep you want the chest line to be. So my chest line is sitting 2 inches above my bust point, so my bust is not going to show. But if you want to cover your chest line a bit more, you can go up by 1 inch or 1.5 inches from the chest line before you start placing your measurements, okay? But where my chest line is okay for me. So the next thing I'm going to do is to place my tape on the shoulder line, and what I have is 5 inches. I'm going to divide it into 2 equal halves. Half of 5 inches is 2.5 inches. I indicated the 2.5 2.5 inches with a dot. I'm going to now connect from the 2.5 inches mark to meet my dart leg on the bust line. So after connecting, guys, this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to tighten my over bust. So I'm going to place my tape after that straight line, and I'm going to mark 0.75 inches on the center front, and I'll mark 0.75 inches on the side front. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from that point to meet the bust line. So just look at the way I'm placing my ruler. The line is not supposed to be straight and it's not supposed to be that deep, okay? So I'm going to connect like this on both sides of the straight line. So the next thing I'll do is to determine how deep I want the Grecian neckline to be. So that is what you can see on the chest line. I'm going to insert the picture of what I mean. So on the center front, I'll go inward by 2.5 inches. You can do 2 inches, you can do 3 inches. It depends on what you want. I went in by 2.5 inches and I indicated the 2.5 inches with a dot. The next thing I did was to place my tape on this straight line that I have here, and what I have is 7 inches. I went ahead to divide it into 2 equal halves. Half of 7 inches is 3.5 inches. I indicated that with a dot. On the chest line, I went ahead to place my bust circumference divided by 4, and I also indicated that with a dot. On the middle point on this straight line, I went inward by half an inch and I indicated the half an inch with a dot. The next thing I'll do is to place my ruler and I'll connect from the shoulder slope to meet the half an inch, and from there to meet the point on the chest line. After doing that, guys, remember I placed 2.5 inches on the chest line. What I'm going to do is to grab my ruler and I'll connect from the center of the shoulder line to meet the 2.5 inches. So it depends on how deep you want your neckline to be. So if you want it deeper, just go inward by like 2 inches or 1.5 inches. So you can see that the line that I connected is not a straight line. The next thing I'll do is to now use my pen to curve from that point to meet the armhole area. So this depends on the shape that you want. You can go ahead and just place your ruler on the armhole area and you rule a straight line to meet your point on the chest line. So I want to have like a curvy effect here. That is what I'm trying to achieve. So you don't have to do what I'm doing, okay? So on the 2.5 inches mark that I have on my chest line, I went up by half an inch. On that half an inch, I curved from that point, okay, all the way to the armhole area. And when I got to the armhole area, I made it into a straight line. So after achieving this with my pen, I'm going to go ahead and use my marker to just trace it out for it to be visible for you guys to see. So I just went up by half an inch from my chest line and I created this curve. That is all I did. If you want it to be straight, go ahead and place your ruler on the armhole area and then you slant it to meet the mark that you have on the chest line. Okay, so I hope you guys are not confused. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this other line. The one I'm using is the one that I traced out using my marker. So I'll go ahead and extend my dart leg to meet this point. I'll just go ahead and extend it like this. After doing that, guys, I'm going to start placing my body measurements. So I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. I'll go ahead and replace the dart intake that I have on the chest line. I'm not going to place my stitching allowance on this pattern paper. I'm going to place my stitching allowance on the fabric when I'm cutting. So I'll just replace the dart intake. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and place my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'll also replace the dart intake and I'll indicate the measurements with points. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and connect the dots on the chest line and the dot on the waistline. After connecting, guys, I'll go ahead and trace out the armhole. I'll just blend it in to meet this line. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and take in my side dart. So like I said before, I added 1 inch to this pattern paper in order to take my side dart. I'll go down from the bust line by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot, and then I'm going to slant to meet this dart, just like you see me doing. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and shade this dart. Okay, so you know where we are cutting out. We are cutting out the dart. Okay, after shading out, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut. So pay close attention so you know where to cut. So guys, before I cut out the darts, I'm going to go ahead and fold these darts on each other like this. And if it's not blending, go ahead and blend it before you cut. So by the time you take in this side dart, the nipple part is going to stand. Okay, so if it's not blended well, go ahead and blend it and then cut it out. After cutting, guys, this is what I have for the front, and you can see that after I folded in my darts, the center front and the side front is still the same length. So that is why I added 1 inch to the length of this front pattern. So I have my side front and my center front. Okay, so guys, I'm going to use my masking tape to hold the side dart down because I'm not going to cut it out. I'll just hold the side dart down. After doing that, guys, like I said earlier, if you don't want this curvy part on your neckline, you can go ahead and make yours a straight line, so it's just straight. So let's go ahead and draft out the back. For the back, I've already gone ahead to rule out my lines. Okay, so I went ahead to add 1.5 inches to the center back for my zipper allowance. So I'm going to label it my zip area. So I went ahead to also rule out my lines. So the distance from my shoulder to my chest line is 8 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. And the length of the back pattern paper, which is my waistline, is 16 inches. So I'm not going to take side darts for the back. I'll be taking the regular darts. So the back is 16 inches. I did not add any extra allowance to the back. So I have my chest line, my bust line, and my waistline. So from the zipper allowance, immediately after the zipper allowance, I'm going to place half of my shoulder measurement minus 1 inch, just like we did for the front. So I'll be placing 7 inches. After doing that, I'm going to go down on that point by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot and I'll slant into the neckline area. After doing that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and place the same 7 inches that I have on the shoulder line. I'll place the same 7 inches on the chest line. I will indicate the 7 inches with the dot, and then I'll connect the dot on the shoulder slope to meet the dot on the chest line like this. The next thing I'll do is to take my neckline measurement. So for my neck width, the same thing we did for the front, I'll be taking 3.5 inches for the neck width, and for the neck depth, I'm going to go down by 1.5 inches. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect like this. The next thing I'll do is to place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll place the measurements on my chest line and I'll indicate it with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from this straight line like this to meet the point on the chest line. The next thing I'll do is to take my bust span measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches. I'm going to mark the 4 inches on the waistline, on the bust line, and on the chest line. After doing that, I'll go ahead and connect the dots into a straight line. The next thing I'll do is to take my dart. So I'm going to place my tape on this straight line and I'm going to mark half an inch on both sides of the straight line. And on the chest line, I'll place my tape. I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'll connect from the 2 dots on the waistline to meet this 1 inch mark below the chest line. The next thing I'll do is to start placing my body measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. On the waistline, I'm going to place my waist circumference divided by 4, and then I'll add the 1 inch that I have there. I'll replace it. After doing that, I'm going to connect from the chest line to meet the waistline. So like I said earlier, I did not add my stitching allowance on the pattern paper. I'll add it on my fabric. So I'll be doing the same thing we did for the front. I placed my tape on the shoulder, and what I had was 5 inches. I went ahead to divide the 5 inches by 2, which gave me 2.5 inches. So I'm going to place my roller on the 2.5 inches and I'll connect into the armhole area. So I'm doing this so that the front shoulder and the back shoulder should be the same. So you can do any type of neckline that you want for the back, but I just want this regular back neckline. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it out like this. So just do what you want to do for the back. You can even decide to make the back a Grecian neckline if you want. The next thing I'll do is to adjust the zipper area. So I took 1.5 inches as my zipper allowance. On the waistline, I went ahead to take out 1 inch from that 1.5 inches. I'll place my ruler like this and I'll slant to meet the neckline area. So I took out 1 inch from the waistline to avoid zipper bulge. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. So I'm going to place the back shoulder and the front shoulder together, and you can see that is the same. So make sure the front shoulder and the back shoulder are aligned just like this. Yeah guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. I'll see you in the next one.